And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
There's nothing even remotely close to calm in Canuck land, Tyler. Nothing. It is louder. God, it's louder than a train going down Kelowna or Kamloops or whatever. It's loud. That's my point. With the Shifts and Pucks. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks. Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio. That will be rejiggered. Had a little bit of a technical issue with that, but that will be fixed today. So we'll have all of that back for you. But holy cow, what a week in Vancouver. And first of all, hello, Sean.
Hi, Kev.
How are you?
Personally, I'm fine. I'm having a good. I'm pretty good right now. But like as a sport, like my sports fandom and everything, I'm just wondering it's just the ups and downs this week have been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if I'm allowed to be sports happy.
Chris, how are you?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'm good. The Canucks have definitely been a roller coaster the past several weeks, so I'm enjoying the prospect of talking about that.
Well, it has certainly been a very dramatic week, which was 4 games this week. A win since Saturday. A win on Hockey Night in Canada where Elias Pettersson was in a selkie mode and the Canucks got a shutout. It was 3-0. The Eastern media was like, holy cow, this Quinn Hughes guy's pretty good, eh? Wow, maybe he should be in the Hart and Norris Trophy. And Canucks fans are like, no fucking kidding. Watch some hockey. And then Monday comes. And Kyle Connor scores not once, not twice, but 3 times in the first period. And first of all credit to Kyle Connor. He's a hell of a hockey player. Like, just seriously, legitimately underrated. Like, come on with Kyle Connor. He's damn good. But the Canucks did not. That was a bad night and a big loss. Then they come home, and we're thinking, well, that's a home game. It's LA. It's a division rival. You've got the Tanner Jeannot knocking out Brock Besser sort of drama that comes with this. Are the Canucks going to do anything about that? Well, it was 3-0 within the first 10 minutes, and the Canucks kind of basically took their ball and went home. In a lot of ways, it was one of the poorest effort in an effort where in a season where there was a bunch of poor efforts. This was a poor effort, and it led to, now let's just carry the drama over. JT Miller went to the side of the bench, and he did have words with Rick Tocchet at some point, and it was appearing at some point that it looked like there was a possibility that JT Miller would be held out of the lineup against the Oilers, and because there was a potential trade on the table, apparently.
As per Elliot Friedman.
Yes. Now, and then JT Miller is in the lineup, and quite frankly, he plays JT Miller-like. The Canucks get a 3-0 lead in the first. They hang on for dear life, Connor Garland hanging up. Connor Garland hung, but maybe the correct way to say it, Connor Garland hung on to Connor McDavid for dear life, and they win 3-2. But then we need to continue the drama. That's what happens in Vancouver. We need to continue the drama. After that, with 2 seconds left, Connor McDavid gets up from the Garland hold, interference, whatever you want to call it, probably penalty. We'll grant you this is a penalty of some kind.
Honestly, I feel like it should have been coincidental, holding, roughing, flat. Yeah.
But Connor McDavid decided to take a cross check to Connor Garland's head, and then all hell breaks loose again. And then Tyler Myers has a cross check to Evan Bouchard's head. Both got match penalties. Both are going to have a hearing as per a little bit earlier this morning with the NHL. And then, so another level of drama ensues carrying on here with the Canucks. So it's just drama filled all around Vancouver. But I guess let's go backwards. Let's discuss this McDavid situation because there's the Canucks fan base is. No, you know what? I'm going to keep everybody else out of this. I'm going to go from my perspective. Okay, let's hear from me first, and I'm going to hear back from you because I got some things to say about this. Connor McDavid is the dirtiest player in the National Hockey League. It is not the first time Connor McDavid has swung a stick at someone. Look back at the Stanley Cup Finals. I know we didn't want to talk about it because a Canadian team did the Stanley Cup Final, and we need to talk about it. The Canadian team did the Stanley Cup Final. He swings his stick around like he's Paul Bunyan. He swings his elbows around like he's doing the chicken dance. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's not the first time he swung his elbow out. Marcus Johansson did not hit at Connor McDavid's elbow. Connor McDavid's elbow hit Marcus Johansson. It's garbage. It is not the first time. And if he's going to keep doing this, he's going to have to throw down his gloves and he's going to have to fight. Because I'll tell you what, if I was on the ice and he pulled this shit, I would punch him in the face. And I wouldn't punch him in the face once. I wouldn't punch him in the face twice. I would punch him in the face several times. It's bullshit. I don't care that he's the best player in the game. It's absolute fucking bullshit. And I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of people defending Connor McDavid for these actions. I don't give a fuck that he's the best player in the game. It's bullshit. It is bullshit that you cross-check a player in the head. Stop this shit. And stop justifying it because he was taken down. Players get taken down all the time. They don't cross-check a player in the head. Fucking, this pisses me off.
That's what I was going to have the rant.
It's the same people that are like, well, we can't have fighting in the game and we need to protect our stars, but we're allowed to have Connor McDavid do this shit? Fuck off with this. Fuck right off. Either you want a standard of hockey that is clean or you don't. Anyway.
I knew you had some feelings, Kev, but damn, I wasn't prepared for that.
Maybe I did need this podcast. I needed Kevin to bring some energy and some just passion into this. But yeah, I wouldn't call him the dirtiest player in the game right now. I mean, that is Triple H, but that's actually a different game. But
it's a different sport entirely.
That's Ric Flair.
He's not the dirtiest player in the game, but he's definitely sneaky dirty. And part of that is because he's been taking so much shit and abuse over the years because he is the best, arguably the best player in the game.
But that's not our problem. That's not our problem.
Yeah. And to be honest, what makes the NHL great when it's at its best is there's no preferential treatment for the stars. Let's go back to 2009 through 2013 when the Canucks were were a good team. They had the Sedins who took so much fucking abuse and just let it roll off their shoulder, and were called sisters for it.
Yep.
Let's go back to that time when they didn't go back, and they didn't retaliate. Look, I think you can. There is the lizard side of my brain that like understands why McDavid did it, but he still should be punished for it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, both McDavid and Myers deserve to be punished. I'm going to guess 2 games because the Canucks and Oilers play on Thursday. Both teams have 1 game in between, and then they will not then both players will miss the rematch. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if they're both won, just because the NHL is the NHL, and I feel like they are trying to they're not trying to quote unquote. This isn't my thoughts on this, but this just how I feel what's happening here. It feels like they're trying to allow more violence into the game again by not overly punishing some of these plays. That being said, a lot of the stuff that has been underpunished by that the public has felt has been underpunished have been mistimed hockey plays for the most part. These are not hockey plays. This was a retaliatory cross-check right to the face from McDavid, and this was away with Myers. It's away from the scrum, and it was a high cross-check that rode up into Bouchard's face. Both deserve to be punished, but if there's anyone out there, and you know what, fuck it, hot take hockey, John. You and I got into it on X/Twitter this morning about it, and you say that Myers deserves 3 games and McDavid deserves 2. If they get different penalties for this, that's absolute horseshit.
Yeah.
Because they're almost the exact same action. Like, you can quibble about, well, yeah, it was, you can call it like an isolated incident with Myers and Bouchard. Again, it was if you look at the replay, the cross check actually initially hits Bouchard up in the upper chest and rides up. It's still a cross check, still deserves punishment. McDavid's was a reactionary, even if it's a split second, he made the decision he wanted to do that because of what Garland did beforehand, directly to the face. There was no initial contact to the torso or anything. It was directly to the face. And also, it was a lot. I think it was a lot harder of a hit to the face than what Myers did to Bouchard. That being said, if those 2 plays get different punishments, it's just going to open up a can of worms that the NHL does not want. They're either going to both get fines, they're either going to both get 1 game, or they're both going to get 2 games. That's my prediction. I don't know at what point they go at it. I think just to calm things down, I wouldn't be surprised if it is 2 games, just because the Canucks and Oilers are playing on Thursday. But I know I've seen Tyler, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, has said that I think he thinks I'm going overboard. I think a friend of the show, Jeremiah, the Beard Sports, I think thinks I'm going a little bit higher than what he expects as well, which is, with the way the NHL is going at this, I don't know how. I can understand why people are expecting less, but I think because they weren't hockey plays, I think they will go a little harsher, especially with the idea of you do not want it to escalate even more on Thursday, even though from a storyline perspective and a narrative perspective, and to get eyeballs on the product perspective, it kind of would help. But I think that they're going to err on the side of caution there. But yeah, I do not understand if anyone saying that these plays should be punished differently. They are pretty damn close to being the exact same. There are slight differences to both because they are different incidents, but they're so fucking close to being the same that if you punish Myers more than you punish McDavid, all that's gonna come out of that is just screaming a preferential treatment for the Stars, which again is not what makes the NHL good. You do not want certain stars getting calls because they are who they are, like the NBA, like the NFL. That doesn't help. That doesn't help things. All it does is make people pissed off and honestly, turn a lot of like the casuals away. What you want is what comes across as unbiased as possible. So,
and what
like,
makes hockey different from the other professional sports is the fact that it's more team based as opposed to star based. So you want to stick with that general like mantra or mindset.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyone who tells me that the one or the other deserves more, I think you're wrong. And I think you need to reassess how you look at things and reassess how you, and especially these two incidents. They're similar enough that taking that punishing one more than the other is just asking for controversy that is not required here.
Yeah. Like, do we want this to turn into what is very close to being the 11-year anniversary to the day repeat of what happened between Vancouver and Calgary? Like, do we want a line brawl next Oilers Canucks game? Because if you decide to go like lopsided as far as these punishments, that's likely is what's going to happen.
Can I just say something? I know that I'm not the necessary. I don't want to be the Neanderthal that encourages that. Can I just toss something in here, a little bit of spice, since I already let out a rant.
This is a safe space, Kev. Let her rip.
Would that actually hurt the Canucks if they did have a line brawl? I almost would propose that a line brawl might actually help this team.
I don't see Talkett disagreeing with you, Kev.
I think, yeah, because it's when you've looked at how inconsistently inconsistent they've been. It's just, and a lot of it is because it feels like they've lost that bite, lost that energy, and that us against the world attitude that they had last year. And I think they need that. I think you saw
they had something to prove, whereas this year, I don't know, like they just don't have that same mojo.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, like I said, you got the whole Miller versus Petey thing, and this, that, and the other thing, and everything. Like something is not right with this team, and it's evident with the how they're losing games more than anything else. It feels like as soon as something goes against them, especially early on in a game, they fold tents and they fold up their tents and shut down camp. Like and I was really hoping that from a PR aspect, how the Canucks handled this when Talkett came out and didn't really confirm anything, but kind of did, and Hughes did the same thing. And then Petey and Miller came out and basically denied it and got pissed off with the media over it. I was really hoping that the media would become the enemy of my enemy is my enemy, like that type of thing. Like it's just like they have a common enemy, and then they can just like build off from that. And unfortunately, it hasn't really gotten that way. But if JT Miller is still a Canuck by Thursday, and that happens, maybe that is the sort of like the spark that the Canucks can build off of. Because you look at how they played against Toronto last Saturday, and you look how they played specifically in the first period last night against the Oilers. That's a team that can go deep in the playoffs if they play that way consistently. They just haven't been able to.
Yeah, I mean, I just hear me out with it sounds. This is going to sound ridiculous, but just hear me out on what you throw out. You reunite the Lotto line with Miller, Pettersson, Besser. You maybe throw out Hughes and Myers is in or whatever your other right shot guy, and you drop. It sounds stupid in a lot of ways, but you almost have them drop the gloves and throw down.
I'm sorry, but Petey's not fighting.
The
Lotto line is not going to see
that's what you want.
But like it almost it just feels like I'm kind of like it just needs something to galvanize and unite this team. And I know it's a bit I get it, but
that's hockey.
Yeah,
as much as we want to make hockey like safer and less prone to injuries and stuff, there's a lot of caveman and old school in hockey, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah, you can try and erase it from the game as much as you want, but there's still some level of that in people, like in their bones, just based on instinct. Like it's a part of hockey, whether you like it or not.
On that point, I want to give Ray Ferraro, Kevin Bieksa, and Elliot Friedman a lot of credit for how they handled last night. Just for our Ferraro, just the fact he said, you know what? I didn't see Myers hit Bouchard. And this broadcast was generally a Canucks home broadcast. It was Shorthouse and Ferraro. So they were kind of more on the side of the Canucks. And that's okay. When the Oilers, they play in Edmonton, it's going to be Michaels and DeBrusque, and that's going to be more of an Edmonton slant. And I think that's what they want to do. But I'll give Ferraro credit. But Kevin Bieksa said something last night to those that want fighting out of the game. And he made a point. If you want fighting out of the game, you are going to have more of these stick incidents. And I know that there's a lot of people who are that don't see it. But I think last night there was and Kevin Bieksa was like, look, both were cross checks to the head. He's like you, Sean. Both are cross checks to the head. Both should be punished, and both should be punished equally. And so, and Elliot Friedman said the same thing. They're cross checks to the head. They have to be punished. And I think,
you look at.
I am one that believes, that we need to eliminate the stick to the head. Is something that we should try to be eliminating from the game. We know the danger of concussions.
Anything to the head.
Although
limbs,
I'm encouraging
sticks,
people
otherwise,
So,
I mean, there's no right answer to this, especially when you're playing at such a fluid, emotional, physical game. It's just going to happen. Again, what makes hockey so great? It's the combination of skill, speed, and violence.
Yep.
We need to embrace all three, in my opinion. So if you don't like that, there's other sports out there for you. I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything like that, but what makes hockey great is the combination of speed, skill, and violence. And if you don't like the violence, there's other games that have speed and skill. And they're great too.
You don't have to. I mean, it's not necessarily when I talk about toughness, it doesn't have to necessarily always be a punch to the face. There's other ways to be tough, like blocking a shot, a physical play along the boards where you're taking a player out using your body. Or
Sedin Lake, where you literally just are eating hits and slashes and whatnot, and being kind of taking the high road sort of aspect.
Yeah, and I do wonder if that's why we're seeing that if we can use that as a transition over to what the hell are the Canucks. I do wonder if that's they're in between what they want to do with how they want to handle this. If they want to be a more emotional, rough and tumble team, like I think how JT Miller would want, or if they want to be a little bit more just like the Sedins. I think that might be one of the reasons why this team has struggled to find an identity this season.
And funny enough, it kind of does come down to the personality of Petey versus Miller.
Because Petey doesn't shy away from physical contact. He just isn't. He's a lanky dude who doesn't have as big of a hockey ass as many other players out there. So he gets knocked. Yeah,
But
he
there was a play last night against Ekholm that he took him out in the corner there. I think Ekholm ended up in a cross-checking penalty. Like Pettersson hit him a couple of times, so he can be physical.
Yeah.
He's just not going to throw a punch in the face.
Yeah.
No. And honestly, like when Petey's on his game, he does have that tenacity to him. He does have that. It's the forecheck, and she showed it in a couple shifts, especially in the third period. Like even was it with near the end of the game when the goalie was pulled, like he forechecked and almost created a empty net goal because of it. Like it's
and a couple of blocked shots.
Yeah, and I do think that that's part of the reason why I think that they just don't know. Like they're trying to be, they don't know what this group is. I think that's the problem, and I think that's a big reason why this team is being so consistently inconsistent, as well as other potential. Like there's definitely some sort of locker room issue there. I don't know how big it is. I do think that the noise surrounding it is probably louder than it actually was. And then maybe it played into it and it grew into that noise. But I don't know. Like I really don't know. But I do think that the noise did not how the noise persisted didn't help. And I think that whatever issue was in the locker room maybe grew into that, in my opinion.
I think like one thing I've noticed with JT Miller is when he's on his game, I've watched like. It's a little subtle thing, but he plays with his shoulders a lot more up, and he's standing a lot more straight. When he's off his game, he does slouch on the ice. I'm not saying that it's a body language thing, but it just feels like it's kind of obvious to me when JT Miller is on and off his game. Well, I will before we get into JT Miller. Two things that I do want to bring up before we get into the Miller Petey bit here. The winger play from last night to the game against the Kings was night and day. Like there was a play against the Kings that Connor Garland went down the ice on the left side, a defenseman that rubbed him out of the play, and I never saw Connor Garland again. There was another play against the Kings that Niels Höglander was pushing somebody. Can't remember who it was. The King player pushed back. Höglander ran away, and I never saw from him again. I don't think Brock Besser last night was probably one of his better performances, but I don't think he's been good for most of the 2025 portion of the season. And I think Jake DeBrusk was quiet for the most part up to last night. So last night was a better game in terms of the winger play. And the other thing is this, as much as people hate Myers Susie, Myers Forbert, I felt was just worse. Like they had less chemistry. It was like less chemistry. Like that did work worse than Myers Susie. I think both Myers and Forbort looked a lot better apart from each other. That was a bad date. Those two together. Like it just didn't work. I don't like. I feel like they're both too slow for each other, and I feel like Myers and Susie complement each other a little bit better. But so I just wanted to get those things out of the way. I think most of the focus in this part is about Miller and Pettersson, and that's totally fair. But those two areas were two areas that I noticed were a big difference from the two games in Winnipeg to the game against Edmonton anyway.
Again, yeah, it's a lot of the inconsistencies.
Yeah.
When they're on, the winger play is on. Like they're making the right decisions. They're tenacious. But when they're not, they're gambling at the wrong time. And then they're invisible. So I think that a lot of that it comes down to the confidence or the swagger or whatever there. But and then with the defense, the chemistry outside of Hughes and Ronick hasn't been there this season. Susie and Myers are okay, but if you're going to have those two in your top six, they need to be a bottom pair. You need to have a middle pair that can take a little bit more of the ice time. If you can find the issue on the blue line, in my opinion. It's just like outside of Hughes and Ronick, it just hasn't worked the way it did last year. Like I think they missed the steadiness of Ian Cole.
Funny enough, I was just about to bring that up. I feel like it took us a little while to realize it, but yeah, the structure that Ian Cole brought really was like an underrated thing that kept that D relatively solid.
They miss his steadiness and his ability to make the smart play whether it was defensively or with the puck. Because I think the Canucks, what did we talk about last year of what made them so successful? It was predictability. Like their teammates knew what was going on, and I don't think that's happened this year. So, and I think a big part of that is the blue line. The breakouts have not been predictable and effective.
Yeah, and they do miss Zadorov's skating. Like Zadorov is a good skater. Now, I think Zadorov is another chaos giraffe. Like you can get the good from Nikita Zadorov, you can also get the bad from Nikita Zadorov, and you can get some wonderful quips. And he would be involved in a line brawl against the Oilers. He would take center ice for that, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He would have been the replacement for Bieksa in that scenario.
But again, you can't. I don't think the Canucks could have paid that money for him, and but they do miss Zadorov. Like Forbort is not the skater that Zadorov is. That's like Forbort is a steady, I would suggest 6'7" type of defenseman, but he's just not that good of a skater. Now, I think the nice thing going forward with the Canucks is you've got at least two good skaters on the blue line coming, and DPD and Willander is a really good skater as well. So I think going forward, you've got that. You're getting that covered, but right now that is the
problem. And don't count out Kudrav.
Right. But I mean, the future of the blue line is good skating. The current of the blue line, other than Quinn Hughes, and like as much just come on with Quinn Hughes last night, like just 2 goals. He should be he's in my heart. He is on my heart ballot, my heart consideration. He's my Norris winner, although I do think Zach Werenski deserves a little bit more love for that. But he was outstanding again last. Like he's not the problem. I mean, okay. I feel like he needs a hug.
Quick gripe though.
No.
If Makar is
outside of
the Hughes conference, why are all the East guys still in love with Makar noticeably a lot more than Hughes? Because Hughes has outplayed Makar over the past 2 seasons.
Because Colorado.
Go ahead, Sean.
Makar is bigger, more physical, and there's the idea that he's better defensively. And then he also, even though Quinn Hughes is already in double digits in goals already again this year, he's for the longest time this year, Makar's had more goals. And I think that's between those two is why you see more votes go Makar than Hughes. So
I don't think that people, again, this is in general hockey analysis, and I will give Shayna Goldman a lot of credit for pointing this out because she's one of them that does it, is the analytics don't quantify defense enough. It's hard to, I will grant that, but there's a lot of it. Like Makar is probably more noticeable on the ice than Quinn Hughes is. If you're just watching from a camera angle, he has more of a presence. But you watch Quinn Hughes, it's almost Connor McDavid like in the terms of the subtleties is what he does. It's nothing is necessarily going to blow you away, but he is very skilled in his own end. Like it's all. I want to be careful when I say this. but I almost feel like it's if maybe no, I won't use that name. I'm going to use a Jacob Slavin as an example, right? Where you're not going to notice what Jacob Slavin does, but like in terms of then you watch the time on ice and shots for and against, and you look at natural stat trick, and you see that when Quinn Hughes is on the ice, how more dominant the team is. It's the same with Jacob Slavin. Like you notice, you don't notice it on the ice, you notice it more later, right? Where Makar, you notice what he does on or off the ice. And there's a lot of people that feel that the reason that Makar is even remotely effective defensively is because of Devon Taves.
Also, I'm really glad that people are starting to come around to what I've been screaming for the past 5 years, that the analytics that we have access to as public do not measure defense very well.
Well, yes, you have said that too. But Shayna Goldman is I should give you credit as well. Shayna Goldman and Sean have pointed this out, but I've kind of tried to point that out too. But I feel like Shayna Goldman is the more famous of us three.
Yeah.
In terms of like the large analytics community.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, yes.
She's also very, very talented with her upscaling of sports stuff and turning it into really cool fashion items.
Yeah, I am a regular listener of their podcast of Too Many Men. I actually really enjoy that. So anyway, but okay. So I got to tell you, I'm conflicted of what to do with JT Miller overall, because I before the Oiler game, I was like, I think I was sitting there. I'm like, look, this might be the time to trade both Miller, and you've got the situation where Brock Besser, where he is a UFA, and you need to make a decision on signing him, and maybe you trade both. And I don't want to say you get younger, and I don't want to say you punt, but maybe this roster needs a refresh. And then you watch what JT Miller does last night against the Oilers, and you're like, you cannot give that away. Can you give that away? Like, I don't know what to do here.
I mean,
well, I discovered a new RE word. I discovered a new RE word to describe what the Canucks should do, thanks to Darren Dreger. Renovate.
Yeah, maybe.
But Kevin, it sounds like you were suggesting.
I think the Brock Besser situation is completely separate from everything else here, in my opinion. You have to make a decision on Miller, and I guess with Petey as well. But I think that you trade one, not both, in my opinion. You have to make a decision on which way you're going, and you pick one or the other. Because if you trade both, I don't know how that roster recovers within 2, 3, 5 years, unless you find a way to do a superstar for superstar trade with Petey. I don't see a team doing that,
especially with how inconsistent Petey's been over the past 12 months.
With Miller, what Alvin needs to do is find his version of the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade.
Which one? Because there was two.
I think he's talking about the most recent one.
The Winnipeg one. No, not the most recent one. The Winnipeg one. Winnipeg in LA.
Yeah.
No, they're not trading him for a goaltender.
Could you do
They're not doing. The issue with the Dubois line one. Yeah, but you need to find someone who can play center, because they don't have someone who can play center in a top 6 role if they trade Miller.
Does Mika Zibanejad interest you in any way?
No.
Okay.
Although the other name, if the Rangers were the trade partner, the other name I had heard was Trocheck.
I'd rather have Trocheck.
Yeah, I would too. The guy I think
he's a right shot. He's better defensively.
Yeah, agree
Who are
with
you
that.
looking at?
The other one I was going to toss in, the other name, it's not with the Rangers, but what about Martin Necas? I know he's not.
I mean, they tried that last year with Petey, and the way Natchez has played this year, I don't think Caroline's even remotely thinking about moving him.
No, not right now, but I still don't know if that is a happy relationship, though, either.
Of Natchez with the Hurricanes, you mean?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that's a happy-go-lucky, everybody loves each other.
But unlike the Canucks, they're just sucking it up and dealing with it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think both of them have said we'll deal with this later, maybe, but
because what deal did he end up signing, or was it? Because I know there was drama about his contract status. I just can't remember the specifics of it.
Hang on. Oops. Okay. Yes, there was, and that's what I remember. And this is like for the Flames podcast, this is the guy I know everybody is pointing at Petey. This is the guy that if I was the Flames, I would be looking at more than Petey just because his contract is cheaper than Petey's. But I believe that contract, I'll just look that up. Anyway, you guys talk while I look that up. Sean,
you're back.
Oh, you left.
He'd frozen. Oh, and now his mic is gone.
Okay. Anyway, okay. I just, for me, yeah, I think you're gonna. I agree. You're gonna have to do something like the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade for JT Miller. I think that's probably your best bet, but I think for me, the difference between Miller and Dubois is I feel like Miller has a higher upside to me than Dubois. And when Miller plays the way that he did last night, it's hard to give up. But yeah.
But at some point, you need to look at what's happened this year, and try and figure out how to make get this team back to the level they were playing last year, even if it is a half step backwards this year, to go for it next year. You look at Winnipeg as an example, and how they had Blake Wheeler, and they got rid of him, and I don't think it's as clear cut as just get cut bait and run with Miller. They do need to get a return for him, and they should be able to. But I think there needs to be. They just need to figure out what the direction is with this team, at least for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of the other problem with the Canucks here is, unfortunately, the other three teams in the Pacific Division, in the top three, keep winning. Like Vegas keeps winning, although they're on a little bit of a losing streak now. The Oilers keep getting at least points, or they keep winning. The Kings keep winning. So the Canucks stumbled through here hasn't necessarily helped them to stay within the top three. And really, at this point, it looks like they're fighting for that final wild card spot, because you got Colorado and Dallas, and it's going to be in the other one. And you're between Calgary, St. Louis, Vancouver, and a little bit in the distance, Utah. Now, I know Calgary keeps winning and keeps proving us wrong, but we know there's going to be a fade at some point. Where I don't see how this roster, I don't see how this team stays in the playoff chase. But maybe it's like with Brad Marchand, Sean, there's duct tape with voodoo going on here that seems to be happening, and they call a guy up. And then there's some guy named, have you heard of this player before? Andrei Kuzmenko? Have you heard of him?
He finally scored.
Yeah, so they find ways to do it, but I'm just not convinced that they're going to stick into this race. So this is going to come down to me between St. Louis and Vancouver for that last wild card spot. And that's just I don't think that's the best position for the Canucks to be in. Now, if they can get on themselves on a roll, and one of those three teams can find a way to trip themselves up a little bit here, maybe they can get themselves into the top 3. But I don't think we can count on that. And that's part of the problem. And I don't know if I want to say that they should punt, because that's not what I'm wanting to say, but I'd like the word what's the word again?
Renovate.
Renovate. I think that might be the way to go about this.
It's about figuring out how to make. It's not punting on this season. It's just figuring out how to make this, get this team back to fighting for a division title next season. I think it's not punting on this season, but the end goal should be about next season. So any trade that they make with Miller or any player at this point, I think needs to help them now, but also needs to be taken to account next season as well. So if you're looking at because I think that the teams that we've heard that are truly interested in JT Miller are the Rangers, who the Elliot Friedman said that the Canucks thought they had to deal with yesterday. We've heard that there's some rumblings about the Devils.
I think Dollywell also mentioned the Stars.
Yeah, maybe the Stars. But I think the other team that I've heard that I don't know how serious they are, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would be Columbus. But the key thing there is, like, even if you're only taking 2 assets back, one is a high, maybe a center or right shot defenseman who is the same age and sort of cap area as Miller. But then you need to make sure that you're getting another asset back that fills that other void for next season. So either a younger center or a right shot defenseman that can help solidify that side going into next season. Yes, the Canucks are hopeful that Tom Willander will be NHL bound for next year, but he's also going to be a rookie, and you can't have the expectations that he's going to be able to step in and be a top 4 defenseman, or even someone who could carry a pairing. You need to make sure that you're setting him up for success, not only short term but long term there. So,
think of Quinn Hughes in his first season. He was insulated with Tanev.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you have the right. You're putting him at, or if it's DPD or Kudratsev or any of the younger defensemen that the Canucks have in the system now, put them in a position to succeed when they come up.
I mean, the interesting thing with New Jersey is the name Simon Nemec is now in this I should be playing in the NHL conversation. So I wonder, and that might be a person that the Devils consider moving on from, but I'm just going to say this right now. That does not mean that I think Simon Nemec should be playing in the Canucks lineup. I'm going to assume my philosophy is 90 to 95% of the players that come to the NHL that are drafted or free agents need AHL time before they play in the NHL. I think that is very rare. Very, very rare that a player can jump in from the juniors or the college to play in the NHL. That's just me. So you still need to develop Simon Nemec, and I agree with you 100%. Sean, I had this conversation on Twitter with the Flames about Zane Parekh, and everyone is expecting, because Zane Parekh is scoring all these goals in the OHL, that he's just going to hop right into this lineup in the NHL and everything is going to be okay. It's just not, right?
But don't you know he's the next coming of Cale Makar?
Yeah, stop.
I know we were sort of almost like downplaying Makar when we were talking about Quinn Hughes, but like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar are the top level of this generation of defensemen that have come up over the past 5-6 years. And to expect Zane Parekh to be able to come in and be that is just mind-boggling. Like, the guy.
Yeah.
Quibble with you want with the Hockey Canada selections, from the World Juniors, but he was cut for a reason. He wasn't brought in for a reason, and that's his defensive play. And as iffy as Makar's defensive play can be, he's still solid enough. And when he's on, he can be really good. That is something that a lot of these younger offensive defensemen have come into the league over the past few years have really struggled with. You're looking at players like Ty Smith comes to mind. Like, it's just that people were really high on. They were high draft picks, but just they're undersized and they don't know how to defend the way that say a Quinn Hughes has. And that's something that I don't think Quinn Hughes gets enough credit for outside of Vancouver and Canucks fans in terms of how good he is defensively, especially because he's so small.
Yeah. Can I just toss one more name from the New Jersey Devils into this conversation for JT Miller?
Dawson Mercer.
I was going to toss that name, and that's the name. I'm wondering about him. $4 million and he's got a 3-year contract, 20. So he, 23 years old. I've always been a big fan of him. I think that I don't know if the Devils are going to be willing to part with him, but that's the guy.
You're gonna have to give to get because to get Miller, and the Canucks are like Alvin's not going to give Miller away. The fact that there is the Rangers have been on him since they tried to start a rumor about Miller leaving when he was on his leave of absence. The Devils are interested. We've heard that there's also multiple teams interested in him. The return's going to be decent, if not pretty damn good, if the Canucks trade Miller.
Yeah,
especially in season.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for overall like win now package return, you're probably going to get more for Miller than you will for PD, just based off of how the last 12 months have gone for either player.
And I'm not trading PD at this point.
Yeah, no,
I think you have to see if you pull the trigger on a Miller trade, you have to see how PD reacts. Because if you look at his game on Saturday against the Leafs and last night against the Oilers, and the effort he put in, and all the details he has, the points are going to come, and he's going to get back to. He may not. I don't know if he's ever going to be a consistently 100-point player, but he could be an 80 to 90-point player who plays to a 200-foot game.
And that's always
yeah, and I also wondered last night if the Canucks over multiple coaches have miscast both these players, because they've always had Miller as the quote unquote shutdown guy instead of letting him be the offensive guy, instead of Petey being the shutdown guy.
It was Miller. It was Lindholm matched with Draisaitl and Miller matched with McDavid in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. And they were hard matching Miller with the McDavid and Draisaitl line for most of last night too. And Miller does a decent job, but he has too many just absolutely baffling moments that I think if I'm gonna, as you said, Kelly, it's just when he's off, right? And I think PD has the ability to play that game too. And I think I wonder if you switch the roles and you just let the reins, the offensive reins off of Miller a little, like let him loose a little bit offensively, and you make Petey the sort of the more selkie, like two-way defensive matchup for center. I wonder how that would turn out.
Yeah, I could see your point there. It engages Petey. I think like the problem, like Petey was ended up with McKay, like with Mikheyev and Höglander in the playoffs last year. And I mean, he's got better wingers this year. I wonder if you start doing the when Joshua gets healthy and you go Pettersson, Garland, Joshua as a line, and then, you know, I think they do need a little bit more. Like, they need more from Höglander too. Like, they really like 3-4 goals, whatever he's got this year is just.
I liked his game last night.
Yeah, but he
had multiple shifts. That line had multiple shifts where he was just again. But that's the whole team, and I think that starts from the top. Outside of Quinn Hughes, the Stars have not been good enough for the Canucks. And if the Stars were better, Miller and Petey were better, then everything else would fall into line, I think. Even with that blue line being a bit of a chemistry disaster.
Yeah.
I think if Petey and Miller were at the top of their game, we wouldn't be talking about them fighting for the last playoff spot. They'd be in with at least they'd be in that top 3 conversation a lot more.
Yeah.
They'd have at least 3-4 more wins, at least. And that's all that's missing is those 3. You get those 3-4 wins. They're sitting at 56, 58 points.
Which puts them right in the hunt of the top 3 in the Pacific.
Yeah, because the Oilers are at 60, the Vegas is at 60, 61, and LA's at 55. So that puts them right there.
Yeah. Just one more thing before we move on here. What would we like for Dallas or JT Miller if we're going to the Dallas Stars Walmart?
Wyatt Johnston.
I don't think he's on the. I think he's on the very high top shelf. That's locked. And I think you need to get the customer service manager who only works Monday to Friday, 12 to 3, to get him.
Well, we all know what all the internet scouts that are based out of the interior BC would want.
I think even Kev would agree with this name.
Yes, I think Stankoven would be a nice. I think that's a perfect replacement for Miller. The other guy wouldn't. I know that they need to fix the blue line anyway, but I wouldn't mind asking him if Esla Lindell is available.
Maybe.
Talk about a guy that's an asshole.
He's another left shot though. Like if you're gonna make a defenseman as a key part of that, it's got to be a right shot.
Yeah,
and I would say, I honestly, it's Wyatt Johnston or Logan Stankoven. Like, you got to give to get at this point.
Yeah.
I
think Logan Stankoven would be on the shelf because you're bringing in a JT Miller, but I don't think Wyatt Johnston would be on that shelf. I think they're higher on Wyatt Johnston.
I mean, what did he score? He scored 33 goals, 65 points last year. He's got only 10 goals so far this year, but he's got 35 points, like 3rd leading scorer on the team in points. Stankoven's 6 goals, 23 points right now, and if you're going to Dallas, those are the 2 I'm asking for.
Fair. Anything else on the Canucks that we should get into?
Not at this point.
Yeah, I feel like that's enough for the current debacles that they are dealing with in Canuck Nation.
Quickly on the Oilers, I will say this. I think
they suck. I hate them. They suck. I hate them.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I was going to say they do look a little bit more prepared for a Stanley Cup run this year than they did overall last year. I do think they look a little bit better. But this Western Conference is going to be a tough battle to get out of.
It always is a slog.
This is going to be a particular slog. I think there's going to be 4 I think the first four, my bold prediction, I would not surprise me if all 4 series in the first round go 7 games.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, even LA, I don't know if they can beat Edmonton, but they may take it to 7 this time.
Mm-hmm.
The LA team that we're seeing this season definitely has a little bit more of that spark than past years. I don't know if that's the McCullough effect or what, but
yeah, and they'll have Doughty back too.
Yeah, but the Oilers will have John Klingberg. I understand why they did it, though. It's a good gamble.
It is a good gamble. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the Rangers. We've had our drama with the Canucks. The Buffalo Sabres talked about palm trees earlier this year. The Pittsburgh Penguins seem to be a team that has had some turmoil on and off this year. They put Tristan Jarry on waivers, who at one point was probably in consideration for Team Canada for the Four Nations. Kyle Dubas is getting skewered. Don't know if it's a fair skewering, by the way, on Kyle Dubas. And then you've also had you've had Philadelphia with their controversies in some ways, with Matvei Michkov in and out of the lineup at times, and Torts scratching him earlier in the year. We've had a little bit of a sour, pouty face from Connor Bedard this year in Chicago, and they had to replace their coach. Toronto's had some drama with Mitch Marner saying again they played well against Vancouver, and Chris Tanev saying that no, we didn't. Shut up. Basically,
Toronto is just Torontoing, Kevin. That's all that.
Yeah, that's just Toronto 24 hours a day, just like Vancouver is never calm.
Yeah. But are there more teams feeling like in turmoil this year? Then you also got Nashville, who has been. I think that people's expectations on Nashville were too high overall, but I did not expect them to be this bad.
No. I think when you look at you've got the teams that have been dealing with turmoil over the past 2-3 few years, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, trying to think, Buffalo and Pittsburgh for sure. And then you've got the new additions to the club with Vancouver, Rangers, Boston as the big ones. Yeah. And then you throw in all those little mini nitpicks of things that happen throughout the season. I do think that this year seems to be a little more. There's more teams under fire than I remember from last year or even the year before. It's just it feels like with Boston, it started off with Swayman. Now they fired their coach. They're potentially looking for another. They're like that didn't do anything. So they're dealing with that. Rangers have been just a tire fire.
Yeah,
don't know where to start there. Pittsburgh started last year when they missed the playoffs, and they are in a bit of a whatever RE word you want to use.
They're renovating,
reconstructing, whatever.
Trying to do.
Yeah. And they're not getting the goaltending, so that's not helping. Buffalo is Buffaloing still. Like it's the same tune, different lyrics with Buffalo, I think. Yeah. So it's just you and there hasn't really been there hasn't really been too many teams that really sort of really turned it around. Ottawa's getting close. Montreal's starting to see that way. Let's add Detroit to the list of teams that haven't taken the step that people have been expecting. And you're starting to see the Yzer plan fall under more scrutiny this year. They're another team that's sort of year after year the turmoil has built. So I think it's just it feels bigger and louder because of Boston, Vancouver, and the Rangers, of teams with big expectations and big markets.
Fan bases.
Yeah, that are underwhelming.
Okay, so I know that Bettman has always like tried to get parity with the success in the league, but we don't need parity in turmoil.
I mean, honestly, with the way things are at and the salary cap, the turmoil is going to happen when you have parity, especially with big markets and impatient owners.
And expectations, right?
Although the fact that it's going to be going up as aggressively as it will be over the next 2 years is going to be interesting to see how that factors in.
I think that might be why we're seeing it this year, is because there was a little bit more patience when the cap was flat and there was only so much you could do. The cap went up a little bit this year. Pete, teams were able to spend a bit more. The cap's going up more next year. And the fan bases have more expectations, the owners have more expectations, and when things don't go well, all hell breaks loose.
Well, I'm just going to go through some of these teams here. I think that people forget how actually big of a market, not huge in terms of a media market, but that is a pretty intense fan base in Nashville that has some expectations. It's not a Canadian hockey market, but there's a hockey fan base in Nashville, and there's been expectations over the years. And they've been through this before where they made the big PK Subban deal and thought that they were going to be a cup contender and came in from the wild card spot. So I think what happened in Nashville is they were expecting more from Novak and Evangelista. They didn't get it. They underestimated the bottom half of that roster and thought that Stamkos and Marchessault and Brady Shea would top up what's gone on there, and it just hasn't happened. And they haven't got consistent goaling from Saros. Pittsburgh, I think Kyle Dubas is getting a little bit too much criticism. I do think the Erik Karlsson trade did not work out, but I do think that Jake Gensel trade actually worked out for them. And I think Philip Tomasino so far has looked good in Pittsburgh, and they're starting to get it a little bit together. They're a little older, and they're in a situation where you're not trading Crosby. You really don't want to trade Sidney Crosby, and you should not trade Sidney Crosby, and you should not trade Evgeny Malkin. He's doing what he can with the margins. I think he's getting too much criticism there. Buffalo, I have a question about that nobody's talking about. Who's Rasmus Dahlin? This guy is, for a first pick in a draft, has been awfully quiet.
I mean, I think that's more because of just the tire fire that he's in Buffalo. When you're a good defenseman and you're on a bad team, it's really hard to look good, especially to outside the market.
You could almost probably make the same argument that Heiskanen kind of dealt with before Dallas really turned the corner.
When you're constantly defending and constantly on the back foot, it's so hard to show well as a defenseman.
That's fair. I just feel like he feels too quiet for me from him. And the Rangers, I think the way that they handled the Barclay Goodrow situation pissed the team off. I think that even the way they handled the Jacob Trouba situation pissed the team off. Because I don't think I think Jacob Trouba had some really good reasons to stay in New York because of his family. And they were trying to trade him, and I think what you can say what you want about how you like Jacob Trouba playing the games. He was the captain of the team for a reason, and I think that Rangers dressing room got pissed off at how that Goodrow and Trouba situation was handled, and they haven't really recovered. They're kind of trying to recover, but they haven't really recovered. And then who's the other team that we're talking about that's in turmoil?
Well, the Canucks, and then
we've talked.
Yeah, and I think on Detroit, right? It's just they made the betting bets on players like JT Compher and others that just haven't worked out.
Yeah. Like the Jake Wallman trade is a bizarre trade. They just I mean, and Todd McClellan is helping that team. They're getting that coach bump. We'll see where that goes, and they have some goaltending. I think they wanted more goaltending. Yeah, so in Ottawa, maybe
Ottawa's doing absolutely fantastic considering that the goaltending situation that they've been dealt with injuries and everything this year.
Yeah,
they've gotten the short straw in terms of goalie injuries.
Yeah. And do you want to hear my bold Four Nations prediction?
Finland's winning it.
No, it's a
That's not by Lankinen.
Sam Montembeault is going to play a game for Team Canada.
You think they're going to play all
or
the
in an
goalies?
elimination game?
They're going to give every goalie a game?
Yeah,
Montembeault's almost been supplanted by this new upstart in Montreal.
Yeah, both of those goalies have gone really well. That Dokic kid is really good too. Like they are getting goaltending for sure. But Montembeault has looked a lot better. Is starting to play better, and I would not be surprised if he gets a game.
I don't think he's going to get.
I would play him over Bennington.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be Hill and Bennington splitting the net in the first two games, and then whoever plays better gets the third game, and then if that goalie plays well, that's who gets the final if they make it.
Yeah, we'll see. I will keep that as a bold prediction. And then quickly, I want to spend a little bit of time on the PWHL, but I'll just ask: does Ovi break the record this year?
I mean, with how he's come out of the Canada since coming back from that broken foot, and just how quickly he came back from that broken foot, I'm not going to count him out. Clearly, he's motivated.
How many does he need? How many more does he need?
I want to say it's like around 20 now. Like he'd have to have a pretty pace.
I'm going to stick with no. I think he'll come close, but I think he'll be like a handful short.
Like 5 goals shortish.
Yeah.
I think he gets within one, and he breaks it in the first game of the year next year, opening night.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be good, entertaining TV. Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the PWHL, and first of all, Hockey Day in Canada yesterday. They do a great job with that. I think it's great, but I do think that
wrong time of the year for it though.
Yeah, it is, especially with the NFL playoffs on. It's a tough competition. It really is. But I do think that they need to find a way to get the PWHL involved. A PWHL game should be part of Hockey Day in Canada. I'm making that motion. I think that would be great to add to. That's a good place for Hockey Day in Canada, which maybe you move it after the Super Bowl.
Move it after the Super Bowl and make it Hockey Weekend in Canada.
Yeah. And
have it over the Saturday and Sunday with some PWHL games sprinkled in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be great. But Dan and I had this conversation yesterday because the PWHL had a tour game in Vancouver this week where 19,000 fans showed up and at Rogers Arena. And he asked me if the PWHL would survive in either Calgary or Vancouver. So I will propose the question to you. Could the PWHL have a team in Calgary and or Vancouver?
I think given enough time for the league to develop, absolutely. But I think where Sean and I both immediately go is the fact that if you try and expand too fast, too quick, it doesn't help anyone.
The issue is the travel costs and the travel expenses. The girls, the players who went on this tour, were traveling with carry-on baggage only. So, like, the only way that would work at this point in the PWHL's like growth and where they're at as a league is if they get a massive sponsorship deal and discount on travel and accommodations for the traveling teams.
Yeah, like if Air Canada became like a primary sponsor and like would like subsidize their air flight or what have you.
Could you do it if you went like let's toss this scenario? I'm just going to toss this scenario. You do a Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Seattle 4-team group, and then you limit you have the limited travel, and that's kind of your league at this point until you can figure out.
You have a West League and an East. You have a West League and an East League, and then the winners of both of those meet in the final. I mean, maybe. I still like keeping it small until you're almost forced to. You're forced to grow it. I think how the PWHL's handled this so far has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, I agree.
I think my only quibble is I think to get it out in that last year they rushed things, but it seemed to work out for them anyways. So I think that's just a quibble. I don't think they need to rush things anymore. Keep it small. Keep doing these barnstorming tours. Keep selling out making every time they stop in Edmonton, every time they stop in Vancouver, Denver, all these places, make them and keep making them special until you can build up enough momentum and sponsors and revenue that it makes sense that they can travel. Because even if you're doing a western side, like the travel there is still a lot more than what's currently currently with the teams right now. So you've got Ottawa and Toronto, that's an easy commute. Ottawa, Montreal, that's an easy commute. Toronto, Montreal, easy commute.
Yeah,
Boston, New
York
York
is just so much more populated. It's hard to even compare the two.
Boston and New York, it's an easy commute. Minnesota's a bit farther west, but they make it work
because it's a hockey
struggle. Yes, I think if you again, I still think that even if you do a West like conference, but it's pretty much split, very similar to the baseball was before the interleague play happened. Then maybe you could make it work, but the travel's still pretty significant, especially if you're like, Vancouver, Seattle's easy, but you're dealing with a border. Vancouver, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton's easy, but Denver's gonna want a team.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know how Albertans would feel if they just tried to do an Alberta team and split the home games between Calgary and Edmonton.
Oh man, the turmoil that would cause.
The logistics of that, anyways, would be an absolute pain in the ass. So I don't think they would do that. But, let alone, I want to say Winnipeg, but they're already struggling to support multiple hockey teams in that market right now. So I think it's take a look at it in 5-10 years.
We all want to see the PWHL succeed, and for that, I think it requires slow growth.
Yes,
even if it's painful to deal with our aspirations, which is what we've just been talking about. But yeah, ultimately, if we want this league to succeed in the long term, it has to be slow, calculated growth.
I think with Vancouver, I think that where it can work is there's not really an alternative to the Canucks in the winter. I mean, the Giants are a little too far out of the way when they play in Langley, and it is hard to get to an Abbotsford Canucks game for those that don't have a vehicle. which I wish that I wish that would be fixed in some ways. That there is.
So are you suggesting that whatever expansion franchise would play out of Rogers Arena?
Yeah, I mean, that would be good. Even if you could somehow renovate Pacific Coliseum, that could be like there. Like, I think one of the things, like, just I'll use the Vancouver Canadians as an example. They're a cheap alternate night out towards the Lions and the Whitecaps for those that can't afford to go to Lions or Whitecaps games. And we don't know what's going to happen with the Whitecaps going forward with the sale of the team. But the Canadians have always kind of been, they're the old Calgary Cannons, right? You could spend a few bucks, eat a hot dog. Could just sit there and watch a baseball game. But they don't really have a winter alternative here in Vancouver. Not where Calgary, you have the Hitmen, you have the Wranglers that all play in that same arena. And that's the problem in Calgary is I think that has to be you will have to wait until the new arena is built because you will need a smaller arena for them. And what Dan and I came to the conclusion of, the concern is there's not really another building in Calgary that the PWHL could play out of because they don't have the Max Bell Arena doesn't really work anymore. WinSports
Corral doesn't exist.
It just doesn't really.
And that wouldn't work either. So.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing. It's like Calgary's missing a 5,000 seat arena that fits what you need for these minor league teams now.
Yeah.
I think you're bang on them.
I was just at a Prosper Place earlier this week, and their capacity is like 8,500 for hockey games.
Yeah.
Like that's what you need for that to succeed in Calgary.
And honestly, you're banging on both counts, Kev. I think within the markets, I think there is a demand. It's just the cost of doing business to travel to all the other markets. That is the issue.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people miss when they're having these discussions. I want whatever moves the PWHL to make to be successful. So I want them to be calculated and I want them to be made at the right time.
And I got to tell you, just, last night Saturday night, I had the opportunity to call a 14U female Super League game between Edmonton and Langley. And they played their guts out. Like, I mean, the passing was off a little. Like, it's 14-year-olds playing hockey. So it's not going to be, like, incredibly skilled. But they played their hearts out. They worked really hard. I'd love to see a really strong women's game going forward. I think we all want that, but I think it's just going to take a little bit more work, and it is going to have to be slow, and that's okay. I think.
It's more than okay. I think there is a demand for it, and that's fantastic. But you have to do it right.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what has been a hamper to the women's professional women's game is that it hasn't been done right, and it feels like it's been rushed and in certain aspects, and they haven't been able to be sustainable. We need the sustainability first, and then you can grow.
Yeah. Even in the grassroots, just seeing that grow a little bit by bit, I want everybody to have the opportunity to play hockey. Like, I really do.
Yep. We all do, Kev.
Yep.
Okay, we got to get ready because as we are about 30 minutes away from football, and I know we're a hockey podcast, but I love my NFL and I must watch my NFL. And everyone else.
Playoffs, damn it.
Playoffs, damn it. And it'll be fun. Anyway, how do we follow everyone?
I am Bearded Canucks 03 on X and Blue Sky.
I am at Schneids on most of the social medias.
Tyler is TNOBLE. I know he's on Twitter. I don't know if he's on the other social medias because he's continuously telling everybody he is calm down. He's probably. Can you imagine him hearing my rant on McDavid at the beginning?
I was looking for my popcorn.
Yeah, give us a heads up next time, Kev. Damn.
Devin is coming back sometime. He's D Holmesmith on the Instagram. He's busy. He's busy with his business, so we will get him back. For those that follow the Flames Fireside Chat, we'll be having a conversation recorded tonight about the Flames and what they're up to. We are also planning to do sort of a lengthier NHL issues podcast. And this is really to try to cut down the Flames and Canucks podcast to a little bit of a shorter time and allow for more extended discussion on NHL and hockey issues. So we're looking into that as well. So stay tuned for that. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. Oops. Can you end the stream?